Allies or Enemies by Peachiibunnii. Summary: Scar Hawkeye is a sissy and world-famous superhero hired by the government to protect the people of Emerald City, protecting people day and night from hybrids and mutants from the Undercity who are strictly banned from the surface and shunned from everyone above ground. Grian Xelqua is a hybrid avian vigilante trying to show people hybrids and mutants aren't so bad and deserve a chance at life on the surface, just like anyone else, protecting his family and identity as a hybrid for a living, and running from the police, and occasionally teasing Hawkeye in his free time. They're both teachers at a college and surprisingly good friends for how much they bicker and tease one another when they're superheroes together. Unable to find out each other's identities, they're both searching for what the other is trying to achieve, along with Grian having a small crush on Scar, his co-worker, and Hawkeye, known as Hawkeye having a bigger crush on his sidekick, also known as Cute Guy. Chapter 1. Getting an extra cup of coffee each morning had always been a part of his morning routine. Well, it really hadn't 3 years ago, but Scar couldn't think of a time when he didn't make 2 coffees in the morning, 2 sugars, and only a little bit of cream, because Grian didn't like sweets. In reality, Scar knew him better than that after knowing him for 3 years. The blonde had said he hated sweets, and they were awful for his health, but on multiple occasions he found the other eating sweet treats and loading a hot mug of tea with too many packets of sugar to count. Scar glanced at the door to the staff room, hearing the doorknob turn. A short blonde male opened the door. Scar had never seen him before. The taller of the two blinks, and must have realized he was staring, because the shorter glanced away nervously before asking a question. Scar was transfixed on the way the blonde's glasses were slightly falling down his nose, and the baby hairs sticking up from putting his glasses on over the hairs around his ears. Ah, Scar finally spoke, sitting up a little straighter. I'm so sorry, I must not fully be awake. Hence the coffee. He gestured foolishly. Did you ask something? The blonde let out an airy laugh, and Scar felt his breath catch in his throat. I'm new. I'm one of the new teachers here. Oh, well, going to be. I was asking if you were also a teacher here. Scar set his mug down and smiled, staying leaned against the counter. I am. I teach history along with the architecture and clothing of the period, like medieval Renaissance. There's more, but those are secrets. He winked, smiling down at the blonde. He could have sworn he saw the other blush a little before turning his head. What do you mean, architecture? He finally asked after an extended time of looking out the window. I'm an architect teacher, so I was just interested in seeing how our majors could tie together. Oh, you're the new architect teacher. I heard in our meetings and through emails we would have a new teacher joining our staff after Impulse moved locations. He used to be the teacher here, but his wife got a new job and had to relocate, so Impulse went with her. Scott talked the other's ear off, watching the blonde's expression shift to something closer to boredom. Oh, so sorry, back to your question. In all honesty, it's about materials available at that time period and how advanced the buildings and foundation is, like a stone wall with mud and a modern beam brick cement insulated home. He continued to ramble, having the blonde's attention once again. Interesting. I teach more mathematical architecture, sort of. Structure, foundation, and building. More so how to build than building, he explained as he slowly and awkwardly made his way to the staff table off to the side of the break room to set his things down. I could never do that. I'm so bad at math. Scar laughed as he finally leaned up from the counter, supporting himself with his cane as he walked to sit across from the other. He noticed the blonde staring at his cane for a moment before they made eye contact. Scar saw something flash in the other's eye and watched the blonde nervously look away from what Scar would assume as guilt. Ah, this? He said, raising it above the table before settling it back against the arm of the chair. It's just for the good days. Most of the days I'm roaming around the halls in a wheelchair. He watched the blonde frown a little, going to open his mouth before stopping. It's all right to observe. I know you don't mean anything by it. He lied, because many people do stare in concern, and most stare just to stare. He'd be lying if he said he wasn't used to the stares and whispers behind his back. It seemed to ease the blonde's shoulders a little. I'm sorry. I've had friends in the past who were wheelchair bound or had troubles walking as well. I didn't mean to be rude, just as you said, observing. No need to apologize. Scar smiled brightly. I get it a lot, but I'm fine. I still enjoy my job, and the staff here are all long-time friends for as long as I've been here, Scar explained. How long have you been working here? The other asked, toying with the edge of the papers Scar could assume were maps and numbers of the building rooms. They had messy handwriting around the margins that could be made out as messy labels. Scar looked up and met the blonde's eyes again. 6 years? It's hard to say when I've worked here so long. The blonde seemed a little surprised by this, with the way his eyes widened before slanting back to a slightly tired expression. Where did you work before this? Scott decided to start asking the other questions. Oh, the blonde paused before smiling. I was a marine biologist. I know, an odd jump from fish to buildings. The other chuckled. I just thought there could be something to do to learn about the ocean. Learn about the other trailed off before staring down at his papers. He blinked a couple of times and looked back up to make eye contact with Scar. Just ocean stuff in general, I suppose. He decided to end that, though, and continue elsewhere. I hit a brick wall in my work, got tired of studying the same animals and features and whatnot, and decided to change career paths. Midlife crisis, I guess. He said it so casually as a joke. You're right, that's an odd jump, Scar began before smirking a little. More commendable than mine. I used to design the buildings for theme parks. Not as a job, more as a hobby, but I was so dead set on always having my own amusement park, and I would call it Scarland. He gestured with his hands over his head with a starry-eyed smile. Scar? The blonde asked, perplexed, staring at Scar in horrified confusion. In horrid confusion. He tilted his head almost like a dog, or maybe a bird when it was spoken to. Yes? Scar answered like an idiot, because only he knew his name. The blonde continued to stare before glancing away and back at Scar. Why? He finally asked, unsure of his question. Scar sat there in confusion now as well, replaying their meeting back a couple minutes ago. Stupid idiot forgot to tell him his name. Ah, my name is Scar. Scar finally blurted out. Perhaps that would be some helpful information, huh? Scar bashfully laughed, scratching the back of his neck in embarrassment. The other seemed to smile, though, a little goofy smile before tilting his head to the other side. Yeah, a bit, the blonde mumbled. What's your name? Scar asked, offering the blonde his hand. Now that we're officially meeting. My name is Scar, so what's yours? The blonde stared at his hand for a moment before smirking evilly. Isn't it more fun if I don't tell you? He asked. Scar gaped and set his hand back down, smiling himself. All right, you can keep your secrets then, he chuckled softly before his phone buzzed quietly. He paused their conversation to check who had texted him before frowning. Uh-oh, that doesn't look too good, the shorter responded finally pushing his glasses up. It's nothing, just academic administration emailing us about the schedule for the midterm dates. You joined kind of suddenly through the semester, especially right before midterms, Scar frowned. The blonde smiled at this. That's because I know the academic administrator. He smiled. He simply said, we're friends and he helped me with this job. He knew about Impulse's leave and requested I work here since he knew I was looking for a job, which, lucky for me, is somewhat similar to being a biologist. Not really, now that I said it out loud, but a professional studying sort of job, he explained quietly. I get what you mean. So how do you know the academic administrator? Scar asked, being met with the blonde's once again mischievous smile. No, you can't keep every secret from me. Either tell me your name or tell me how you know our administrator, Scar pleaded. The blonde only laughed, and boy, if it wasn't the lightest, gentle, warm laugh Scar ever heard. He could have melted on the spot. All right. I'll tell you, but you have to choose. Which would you rather know? Your name, Scott chose immediately. The blonde nodded and smiled again, sticking his hand out across the table. My name's Grian. Scott perked from where he stood against the counter. He held his usual morning coffee mug in his left hand, and another, much smaller and worn than his own, in his right. Good morning. How was last night? Grian looked up at the other. He looked tired, and as if he barely slept from grading papers all night. It was all right. I wish some students would just turn their papers in on time, he huffed before making small grabby hands for the small mug. Scott easily gave it to him, watching the blonde's eyes close and a smile form on his lips when he finally took a sip. Much better, he mumbled behind the ring of the mug. I've got to say, you making me coffee every morning for the past few years has put me in a better mood on occasion. Scott's eyes lit up a little, smiling widely. Really? Do you really mean that? Scott beamed. Yep, don't get too excited, Grin mumbled, turning away once the other gave him too much attention. Just don't let it go to your head, he muttered before going to sit at the spot he always did. Ever since he first started across from Scott, Scott smiled and moved to sit across from him like usual. Oh, I won't. Maybe. Scott smiled at the other. Just stay quiet while I sort these, Grin softly lectured the other before beginning to sort through his papers. You know, a binder would help you stay organized. Unless, of course, you like chaos, Scott grumbled, thinking back to Grin's desk in his classroom. The memory of seeing its state of being sent him into soft shudders. Grin frowned at that. It isn't chaos, it's organized. Just loosely. I don't need a binder, Grin finished finally. Maybe some of those baskets that stack so you can sort them and have your students put their papers in there for you. It would be less work and it would force you to organize them, Scar suggested. Brian gave him a look. Aren't you supposed to be quiet? Anyway, even if I did, I can't trust those kids to actually put their assignments away. My luck, they just throw them in whichever bin they like, and I still get the luxury of sorting through them all. Scar patted, moving to set his chin in his hands on the desk. You should have a little more faith in those kids. They do see how hard you work. Graham glanced at Scar before turning back to look at his papers. Being grossly affectionate and weird isn't going to stop me from my work. Very nice try, though, he lied before smiling at the other, but only for a brief moment. Anything more could make the other get a big head. Scar moved finally and shifted to stand with his cane, checking the time. All right. I'll leave you to your work. Meet back here for lunch? He asked softly, waiting for the blonde to speak his opinions. Going once, going twice. Scar slowly drew out the words. Then paused and hummed. Sold, he continued the other's joke. You, sir, win yourself a seat in my classroom at 1:30 this afternoon. Scar did a dramatic bow before leaning back up, supporting a majority of his weight on his cane. It didn't go unnoticed by Grian. See you, 1:30, he reminded Grian as he opened the door. Grian shook his head with a smile. Yes, Scar, 1:30, I promise, he agreed, the two of them finally settling on an agreement. Once the other was gone, Grian glanced at his phone and checked his messages to make sure Mumbo had gotten his texts. Mumbo, 7:48 a.m. I've got the things for your request. I should have them ready by tonight, so you can practice and test them out. Working on another thing as well. Mumbo, 7:49 a.m. No promises, though. Brian, 7:49 a.m. What's the other thing? Mumbo, 7:49 a.m. Unfortunately, not for you. Mumbo, 7:50 a.m. Sorry. Grian, 7:50 a.m. Traitor. Mumbo, 7:50 a.m. If it makes you feel better, I'm a traitor, but on your side. Grian, 7:51 a.m. It does, actually. Mumbo, 7:52 a.m. Go to class before you're late. Grian, 7:52 a.m. Broken heart. Grian sighed and stared at his papers, fairly organized before he shuffled them all together and packed them away. Perhaps a binder or some sort of organization system would be needed soon. Scar was right. His chaos mess was getting to be a bit of a problem. He could worry about that later. He had bigger things in his mind. Tonight, to be exact. Okay, so that was chapter one. I know I said I wasn't going to be doing series anymore, and then I was like, hey, series, why not? And this one has 32 parts, and it's like 130,000 words. But luckily, that should be roughly 5,000 words per chapter. Obviously, not exactly, but it should be fine. I can do 5,000 words. I will be happy to do that because it isn't an hour long, it's like 15 minutes. That works for me. So I realized I really like having a stable um chapter series, or like, yeah, series, because then I can always pull back on it. I'm not always looking for new things. But I'll also be doing the one shots because the one shots make me feel accomplished so quickly. It's like one video, oh, we're posting it, we're done, we're good. But the series are really cool, just to have something to fall back on of something consistent. Okay, so I want to hear what you guys think of this one because I know it's a hermitcraft one, of which I haven't done any hermitcraft things before. Is this the first hermitcraft book I'm reading? Yes, but I've been watching hermitcraft since season 8, I believe. Could be wrong on that. Ironically following Green and Scar. That's how I ended up here. But you know, things happen. So I'm curious to see what your guys' opinions are. Uh, Hopefully I get Hermitcraft fans from this. I highly doubt it'll happen, but like, there's bound to be one person. Like, come on, there's bound to be one person. Am I expecting the series to fail? Like all the other series that aren't Solangelo? Yep. But I don't care. This one seems really fun and it's finished, so I'm gonna do it and then awesome. So yeah, tell me what you guys think. If you have any recommendations for one shots, or I need to put this on my community tab. Basically, if you have any recommendations and they're below 20,000 words, I can guarantee you I will read them. I might not be very happy if it's a one shot that's like 15,000 words. I might not be too happy, but like, yeah, preferably if it's a one shot, keep it below 10,000 words. But you know, we do be doing. I don't know why I said that. Okay, I've been rambling for a bit too long now. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.